Hi everyone, I'm Deborah Yedlin, business columnist with the Calgary Herald, and I'm here with Arden, Dalik and Sylvia Groves, and we're going to talk about Board of Directors diversity and composition. With this year's Board Diversity Survey, you found that male directors continue to dominate the board chair and the committee positions. Only 9% of directors in the Calgary top 100 companies were female, compared with 15% in Canada. The average Calgary top 10 100 board is made up of only 8.1% women. Energy companies continue to lag in diversity on their boards when compared to other industries in Canada, with only 6% of energy company boards being made up of women. Clearly, something must be done to make some progress towards greater diversity. And Sylvia, what do you see as the major reason why board diversity seems to be such an intractable problem?
Well, I kind of see three separate things that play together. So one is something I refer to as the CEO bias, where directors decide on this skill set that they want to bring onto the board, but then instead of looking for the skill of leadership, they look for someone who's had the CEO title, which leaves a lot of women out of the equation.
Sure.
The second thing is directors, in order to bring women on the board, really have to start stepping outside of their social circles to find those qualified women. And the third thing is something I don't even think directors have kind of clued into yet, but directors, of course, have a duty to act in the best interest of their organizations. There's so much research now showing how diverse boards are more effective that when you add those two things together, it's really something that they need to start taking on board as part of their duty to their organization.
Now, Arden, why might CEOs not be the best for somebody around that boardroom table?
Well, I'm going to have some explaining to do in my next board meetings, but CEOs, they're dominant personalities. That's why we hire them, and they're meant to lead the team. But in a board situation, it is very, very much about collaboration and appropriate challenges and all of those kinds of things. And that can sometimes be uncomfortable, and that's where this whole division of CEO board chair, impetus came from, et cetera. So it's obviously not a given, but it's something to be considered.
So the OSC, the Ontario Securities Commission, has had a recommendation looking at things like increasing board diversity, which is very important. One of the things that people have talked about often is term limits, and I'm just wondering what your survey and what your thoughts are when it comes to term limits.
I don't necessarily think term limits are the answer. You want some ability to create renewal, but term limits are not necessarily the answer.
What about board positions where some people have been on the board for like 19 years? Is that something that's good for the board or bad for the board?
There's a lot of research coming out that after approximately the 9-year mark, directors start detracting value from the boards they sit on. So renewal is really important. When I talk to organizations, though, I talk to hundreds across Canada every year, and most of them say they've got 2 or 3 directors that are going to be rotating in the next couple of years.
So diversity is not just female board representation, it's just diversity writ large, I would say. How are we seeing that sort of aspect of it being reflected at the board level?
I can comment, there was an interesting study that came out just a few weeks ago that's talking about how gender diversity is going up on Canadian boards, but the visible minorities are going down. And I think a lot of that has to do with the regulatory attention and the shareholder pressure to see gender diversity. And unfortunately, what we're seeing is a trade-off. They're just trading one diverse candidate for a different diverse candidate. We're not really getting at the cultural issues. We're just kind of dealing with each little symptom as it comes along.
What about quotas? Does that make sense to you or not?
No, I don't think quotas are necessarily the right answer, just like, affirmative action or any of those things where things were forced. But they do need a gentle shove. So I like what the Securities Commissions are looking at, where you need to sort of explain what you're doing.
So the comply or explain.
Exactly. Yeah. And Sylvia has a great initiative that she's working on called Diversity One. Do you want to comment on that?
Diversity One is a really simple process where boards, by taking the one action of interviewing a diverse candidate for every empty board seat, you actually see diverse members being elected to the board. So they need to do almost nothing, and it still leaves the process in their hands. It still ensures they're getting the most qualified person in the room, which is often the argument of the tokenism idea.
Thank you very much, Arden, Sylvia. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us today. Very important points that you've both made.
Thanks, Deborah.
Thank you.